Part 1. The Wedding Night That Didn't End. Chicago doesn't sparkle in winter. It cuts. Wind from Lake Michigan snapped against the glass of the Lanham Chicago like a warning, sharp, relentless, a reminder that even the most expensive buildings in the city couldn't keep out the cold. But inside Suite 4800, where soft champagne lights glowed off marble floors, where the Vaughn family crest shimmered on embossed envelopes and gold-trimmed menus, the world was warm and perfect. Too perfect. Because nothing that perfect survives Chicago. Not for long. 1. The bride in the closet. The wedding had ended only an hour earlier. Eden Vaughn, 29, flawless, elegant, born into a billion-dollar dynasty, kicked off her heels and hid inside the penthouse's walk-in closet with a mischievous grin. She had planned to jump out and surprise her new husband. Something cute. Something normal. She didn't get the chance. The door slid open. But it wasn't Julian. A tall man dressed in black stepped inside, closing the door quietly behind him. The dim motion light flickered on, revealing a face more carved than handsome, all angles, shadows, and tired authority. He raised a finger to his lips. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." Eden's breath froze. She didn't scream. Her instincts were too sharp for that, instincts inherited from a father who built towers and toppled rivals. "Who are you?" she hissed. He slowly lifted a phone and pressed play. A recording filled the small space, Julian's voice, unmistakable, laughing with a woman Eden didn't recognize. 3 months tops, Julian said on the recording, voice dripping with arrogance. "We'll have her committed. Transfer the assets. Then divorce her. She'll break just like her mother did. Pressure works wonders." The woman giggled, the kind of giggle that belonged to someone who believed she'd won. "Poor Eden," she cooed. "She really thinks you love her." Eden's pulse hammered in her ears. Her mother had died from a mental health spiral the tabloids still whispered about. Her name had been used as a cautionary tale. And here was her husband, the man who'd kissed Eden's forehead an hour earlier, planning to turn her into a matching tragedy. Eden forced her voice low. "Who is she?" "Nova Reed," the man said. "Your husband's secret wife." Eden blinked hard. "That's not possible." The man's look said it was worse than possible, it was deliberate. "I'm Malik Graves," he added softly. "Former FBI. These days, people hire me when they want the truth." "Then why show me this?" Eden whispered. "Why tonight?" Malik's gaze didn't flinch. "Because they were going to drug you tonight. Start the paper trail early." Eden's stomach turned cold. "And you're here to, what? Save me?" Malik shook his head once. "No. I'm here to offer you a choice." He stepped closer, lowering his voice to something almost intimate. "You can scream right now and everything ends bloody. Your story becomes the chaos they planned for you." Eden swallowed. "Or," she whispered. Malik looked her dead in the eye. "Or you can play my game, and bury him alive." Silence swelled like a storm inside the closet. Eden's world had ended in under 60 seconds. And yet, she felt strangely calm. Something inside her, something cold and fiercely logical, clicked into place. She nodded once. "I'll play." Malik's expression didn't change, but something like approval flickered behind his eyes. "Good," he murmured. "Then let's begin." 2. The Wedding Night Smile. Julian found Eden minutes later sitting on the edge of the bed, veil off, hair down, face unreadable. "There you are," he said warmly. "I thought you were grabbing champagne." Eden smiled. A perfect, slow, elegant smile. "I was." He kissed her. She let him. Because the game had already started. Malik stepped out the emergency stairwell and disappeared into the building's shadows. And Eden Vaughn, Chicago royalty, Vogue cover favorite, heir to Vaughn Holdings, became someone new. Someone colder. Someone dangerous. 3 months of mastery. It was easier than Eden expected. Julian wanted evidence she was unstable. She gave him performances worthy of awards. Trembling hands at dinner. Long empty stares at the balcony. Sleepless nights. Tears she could summon on command. She even staged 2 attempts, both carefully planned with Malik, the first in a way Julian could rescue her, the second in front of a horrified household staff member whose sworn statement would later match Julian's narrative perfectly. Julian recorded everything. Exactly as she wanted. Meanwhile, Eden installed microcameras across the penthouse, hidden in air diffusers, behind light fixtures, under marble counter edges. UHD. 8K audio so clean she could hear Julian blink. Saloni, the Vaughn family housekeeper, unknowingly cleaned around surveillance more advanced than some police departments. And Eden watched. She watched Julian drug her chamomile tea when he thought she wouldn't notice. She watched Nova slip into the penthouse when Eden pretended to be asleep. She watched them whisper plans about hospitals, inheritance laws, psychiatric evaluations. And she waited. Chicago winter deepened outside the tower's glass. Inside, Eden became winter itself. Quiet. Inevitable. Lethal. 4. The truth beneath the ice. In early February, Malik delivered everything he'd found at a private booth in a dimly lit River North bar. His gaze was steady. His tone, controlled. "Ready?" he asked. Eden nodded. Malik slid a folder across the table. The first page hit like a blow. Insurance investigation analysis. Accidental brake failure. Except Malik had found the mechanic, the one who received a large cash bribe. The man had confessed immediately once Malik applied pressure. Julian Vaughn had sabotaged Eden's father's car. The crash that killed him wasn't a tragedy. It was a transaction. Eden's breath left her body in a single, icy exhale. "And the rest?" she whispered. Malik's voice didn't waver. Julian and Nova were married in a private religious ceremony 4 years ago. No civil record, but the church files were easy to breach. He tapped another photo, a little girl with curls and Nova's eyes playing in a sunlit backyard. Their daughter. 2 years old. Living offshore. Eden felt her body go impossibly still. A third file lay waiting. "What's that?" Malik flipped it open. Bank documentation. Transfers. Shell corporations. Wire trails through obscure islands. "Julian's been funneling your inheritance into a ghost fund," Malik said quietly. $180 million so far. Outside the bar, snow whirled past streetlights like ash. Eden didn't cry. Her anger wasn't fire. It was ice. And it didn't burn. It crystallized. "Thank you, Malik," she whispered. He studied her face, the steel forming there. "Eden," he said carefully, "this won't end clean." "It won't end at all," she corrected gently, "until I finish it." Their eyes locked. A pact sealed in silence. 5. Preparing the kill. The Vaughn Holdings' 50th Anniversary Gala approached, a monumental event with national press coverage, billionaires flown in, broadcast live on financial networks. Julian believed he would give a speech that night. Eden believed it would be his last. She chose her gown weeks in advance, backless, diamond-studded, the kind of dress meant for cameras and coronations. She sat beside her husband during final rehearsals, placing her hand lightly on his arm, pretending to be proud. Malik stood in the background, unnoticed in the blur of staff and vendors. Eden had recited every line she would say that night. Every move. Every breath. The gala would be the execution ground. But the balcony. That would become the grave. Part 2, the gala where Chicago watchers held their breath. Chicago's skyline glittered like a field of diamonds the night Vaughn Holdings celebrated its 50th anniversary. Spotlights carved the sky. Black SUVs and limousines lined the Kensington Drive entrance beneath a marquee so bright it made the falling snow glow gold. Inside the ballroom, everything shimmered. Crystal chandeliers, mirrored pillars, gold-trimmed velvet drapes, 2,000 guests dressed in couture and old money confidence. Eden Vaughn was the brightest jewel among them. She descended the grand staircase slowly, one hand gliding along the rail, her gown catching every spotlight like she'd been sculpted for the moment. Guests whispered her name with admiration, envy, and curiosity. Julian stood at the bottom of the staircase, smiling for the cameras, playing the role of perfect husband. He reached a hand toward her. She gave him her fingers. But she didn't give him a single real piece of herself. Not anymore. 1. The woman Chicago thought they knew. People adored Eden Vaughn. Her father had been a titan. Her mother, a tragic icon. And Eden, quiet, gracious, refined, was the phoenix the tabloids had waited for. Tonight was supposed to be her coronation as the public face of Vaughn Holdings. Instead, it would be the night Chicago learned she was something much more dangerous. Julian gently kissed her cheek. Cameras flashed. The world saw devotion. Eden felt calculation. Ready? Julian whispered. Yes, she said softly, I've never been more ready. Across the room, Malik Graves watched her with the unruffled calm of someone who had seen too many monsters succeed and too many good people lose. He stood near a pillar, blending into shadows, hands folded behind him. Eden didn't look his way. She didn't have to. He was exactly where he needed to be. 2. The speech that wasn't meant to happen. The stage was decorated with golden branches like frozen lightning. The massive LED screen behind it displayed a loop of the Vaughn Holdings skyline portfolio, the towers her father had built, the empire Eden was set to inherit. Julian stepped up to the podium as applause thundered. Good evening, he began, voice smooth as polished silver. Thank you for celebrating with us. Eden exhaled the slightest breath. Showtime. She tapped a small black card in her hand, one with a magnetic strip Malik had loaded with a coded trigger. When she slid it discreetly against the metal edge of her clutch, the signal traveled across the private network Malik had infiltrated earlier that afternoon. The screens behind Julian blinked once. Then twice. Then the ballroom went silent. The Vaughn skyline vanished. Replaced by a black screen. Gasps rippled across the room. Julian turned, confused, half annoyed. What? The screen lit up again. This time, with a bedroom. The Vaughn penthouse bedroom. Gasps turned into stunned silence as Julian appeared on screen pouring something into a glass, Eden's glass. A clear liquid. Stirred. Watched. Whispered. Just enough to keep her compliant. His voice filled the ballroom like a verdict. Julian froze on stage, eyes wide. Eden remained utterly still. The screen shifted to another angle, Julian and Nova, together, caught on hidden 8K cameras Julian never knew existed. The footage was blurred enough to remain within decency, but the implication was unmistakable. Nova's voice filled the room and shattered the air. She believes everything you say. 3 months and she'll fold. She's fragile like her mother. Julian's expression broke apart. The crowd murmured, horrified. Then the final clip began. A mechanic working late at a service garage. Julian handing him a thick envelope. Make sure the brakes fail. He'll never see it coming. Eden didn't blink. The room did. Her father's death, explained. Julian's future, erased. 3. The Empire reacts. Board members stormed out of their seats. Investors shouted. Cameras rolled. Reporters sent frantic texts under the table. Julian stepped away from the podium, voice cracking. "This is fake, this is edited, Eden, tell them." Eden looked at him with an expression so calm it frightened him. "Julian," she whispered, "don't insult me." He staggered backward. Security approached. The guests parted like a sea of expensive perfume and judgment. Julian ran. Off stage. Through an emergency exit. Into the service corridor. But he didn't make it far. Malik stepped out from the shadows of a steel support beam. Julian skidded to a halt. Malik didn't raise his voice. "Going somewhere?" Julian swung at him, desperate. Malik sidestepped effortlessly and delivered one precise strike, non-lethal, controlled, enough to stop Julian cold. Julian collapsed against the wall, dazed. Cameras streaming the gala caught only the aftermath, the disgraced doctor being escorted back inside by security and event staff. Eden never took her eyes off him. Not once. 4. The silent ride home. 2 hours later, after the police took Julian into custody for questioning, Eden sat in the back of her family's Escalade, hands folded neatly in her lap. The Vaughn attorney rode beside her, already strategizing damage control. Her aunt called twice. A senator sent a text offering condolences. 2 board members wanted emergency meetings. Eden ignored them all. Malik sat in the front passenger seat, face expressionless. The car hummed through the snowy streets, passing the Black River, the glittering skyline, the lake that stretched into darkness. "Are you afraid?" the attorney asked softly. Eden looked out the window. "No," she said. "Fear is a luxury I don't have time for." Malik watched her in the rearview mirror. He'd seen victims before. He'd seen survivors. He'd seen vengeance twist good people. But Eden Vaughn was none of those things. She was something new. 5. Out on bail. Julian was released 48 hours later. Money buys time. Not freedom, not forgiveness, just time. But time was enough for a desperate man. At 2:56 a.m. on the third night, Julian climbed the maintenance ladder outside the Vaughn Tower, wind howling around him, cold slicing through his coat. Snow clung to his eyelashes, melting into frantic blur. He had nothing left. Not his job. Not his reputation. Not his carefully constructed lies. All he had was panic and the belief that Eden was the last loose thread he needed to cut. Inside the penthouse on the 132nd floor, quiet lamps glowed. The hum of the HVAC filled the air. And Eden stood at the balcony doors, sipping tea as if she felt him coming. The moment he stepped inside through the maintenance hatch, she turned her head slightly. Almost welcoming. "Hello, Julian." His voice shook as he raised the gun. His hand didn't. "You ruined me." Eden set the tea down. "No," she corrected. "You ruined yourself." Julian stepped toward her, gun trembling inches from her face. "If I fall," he whispered through clenched teeth, "you fall with me." Eden's lips curled into something soft and deadly. "That," she said, reaching slowly into her silk robe, "was our wedding vow, wasn't it?" She drew the .380, nickel-plated, small, gleaming. Wedding gift. Wrong bride. Julian's eyes widened. Wind howled through the open balcony doors behind her. Chicago waited. And Eden didn't flinch. 6. The shots that ended the story. The confrontation lasted seconds. 2 sounds cracked through the penthouse air, sharp, decisive, echoing against glass and marble. The aftermath was swift. A stumble. A step back. A crash of breaking glass. A fall that vanished into the night. No gore. No spectacle. Just a silence so deep it swallowed the city's noise for a heartbeat. Snow continued to fall. The lake wind did not stop. and Eden Vaughn stood alone on the balcony, her white silk robe moving like a ghost in the winter air. 7. Malik arrives with the moonlight. Malik stepped from the shadows behind her, calm as ever. "You're safe," he said quietly. Eden exhaled, slow, steady. "Am I?" Malik approached, steadying her wrist, taking the .380 gently from her hand. He wiped it clean. Then he moved to the balcony rail, looked down to the street far below, and nodded once. "Self-inflicted," he said. No signs of forced struggle. "The cameras?" Eden turned toward the living room, her face unreadable. "They were never on." Malik almost smiled. "That's convenient." "It's necessary." He handed the cleaned weapon back to her. "Drop it," he murmured. Eden obeyed. The gun disappeared into the darkness below. Just like Julian. Part 3, The Woman Who Learned to Walk Above the City. Chicago wakes slowly after tragedy. It doesn't scream. It absorbs. The morning after the fall from the 132nd floor, the Vaughn Tower lobby was blocked off by yellow tape and a handful of stunned security officers. News vans crowded the blizzard-coated sidewalk. Reporters whispered into microphones about suspected suicide, financial strain, the fallout from the gala, and a doctor pushed beyond his breaking point. None of them mentioned Eden. None of them questioned why she wasn't crying. Chicago doesn't question strength in its women. It respects it. It fears it. Eden understood that better than anyone. 1. The first interview. 2 days later, Eden sat across from 2 detectives in a quiet conference room. One wore a tired suit, the other wore a face that looked like she had already solved the case before asking the first question. Special Agent Dana Holt. FBI. Chicago Field Office. Holt didn't waste time. "Mrs. Vaughn, were you aware your husband had accessed the penthouse service systems the night he died?" Eden folded her hands calmly. "No," she answered. "I was asleep. I woke up to the sound of glass breaking." Holt's eyes flicked to her, sharp as a scalpel. "And your statement is that he jumped?" Eden held her gaze. "I didn't see the fall. I only heard the impact and called security immediately. I assume he was overwhelmed by the investigation and the exposure at the gala." The other detective scribbled notes. Holt didn't. She simply watched. Silence stretched thin and tense. Finally Holt said, "You don't seem shaken." "I've had 3 months to prepare for who he really was," Eden replied. Shock wasn't part of the equation. Holt leaned back with an unreadable expression. "Convenient," she murmured. But she didn't push further. The interview lasted 30 minutes. It ended with no charges. No suspicions that anyone stated aloud. But Agent Holt's eyes lingered on Eden longer than the rest. 2. The cameras that failed. 2 days after the interview, a technician from Vaughn Tower Maintenance delivered a formal report. Security cameras on floors 131 to 133 failed between 2:41 to 3:19 a.m. due to a brief network outage. Eden signed the papers with a neutral expression. When the technician left, she allowed the smallest smile. The outage had been Malik's work. Silent. Precise. Impossible to trace. It took him 7 minutes. For Eden, it bought freedom. 3. The boardroom ascension. The Vaughn Holdings boardroom was carved from deep walnut and quiet money. Portraits of past CEOs lined the walls, including Eden's father, immortalized in a crisp charcoal suit, smiling with the confidence of a man who never feared gravity. Now Eden sat at the head of the long table. Her aunt cleared her throat. "We need a statement," she said gently. "Investors are nervous." Eden clasped her hands on the table. "Then I'll give them stability," she replied. "Julian's actions are no longer relevant to this company. The Vaughn name stands on my father's legacy, and mine. One board member asked carefully. And you feel ready to take the role of CEO? Eden didn't blink. I was ready the day he died. The room froze for half a second. Not because of the words, but because of the certainty behind them. The board voted unanimously. And just like that, Eden Vaughn became the youngest CEO in the company's history. By the end of the quarter, the stock price rose 42%. Chicago loved a comeback story. Especially one dressed like vengeance in couture. 4. The visit from Nova. Late March brought a strange visitor to the Vaughn Tower lobby. Nova Reed. No longer polished. No longer smug. She appeared at the security desk wearing a simple coat and holding a photo of her child. Her voice was quiet, almost pleading. I just need 5 minutes with Eden, Nova said. Please. The security officer called upstairs. Eden declined. Nova persisted. Day after day. On the 4th day, Malik approached her outside the building. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "Leave Chicago. This city is not safe for you anymore." Nova looked at him, something breaking behind her eyes. She took everything from me. Malik's face didn't change. You helped Julian build the plan that would have ruined her life. It wasn't supposed to go that far, Nova whispered. Malik shook his head. It always goes that far. He put a card in her coat pocket, a one-way ticket to Arizona. Take the exit, he said. It's the only clean one you'll get. Nova disappeared the next day. Chicago didn't miss her. Neither did Eden. 5. The balcony returns. 4 months passed. The winter loosened its grip. Lake Michigan turned from slate to steel. Tourists returned to the Riverwalk. But Eden rarely left the penthouse. Not because she was afraid, but because the height had become a kind of sanctuary. The balcony that had nearly become a crime scene now felt like the only place where she could breathe. Every night she stood out there overlooking the city her father built, the city Julian tried to steal from her, the city she had reclaimed in bloodless precision. Malik visited every few afternoons, dropping files or updates, never lingering. He never spoke of the night Julian died. He never asked what Eden felt. He understood women like her didn't process emotion the way others did. They transformed it. One night in early April, Eden stepped onto the balcony holding a small velvet box. Malik stood behind her, arms crossed, watching her silhouette against the skyline. Eden opened the box. Inside lay Julian's wedding ring. Cleaned. Cold. Devoid of meaning. He wore it with pride, Malik said quietly. Eden turned the ring in her fingers. He wore it like a weapon. Malik stepped closer. And what will you do with it? Eden held the ring over the edge of the balcony. Wind curled around her wrist. I think symbols only matter when we allow them to. She released it. The ring vanished into the night, swallowed by the street below, a silent end to a story no longer worth remembering. Malik exhaled, just once. You're free now, he said. Eden shook her head. No, she whispered. Freedom isn't given. It's taken. She turned to face him. Snowflakes drifted in the April air, a one last winter protest. Malik, she said softly, why did you help me? He didn't answer immediately. Instead he stepped closer, his expression finally breaking just enough to reveal something vulnerable underneath. Because you didn't deserve the life he planned for you. And because Chicago deserves someone who knows how to survive it. Eden studied him, the man who had watched her transform, who had walked through shadows without fear, who had stepped into her wedding night like a warning from fate. Come here, she whispered. He moved toward her. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just certain. As snow thickened around them, Eden placed her hand on his cheek. "Next time a man says, 'Till death do us part,'" she murmured, "make sure he means it." Then she kissed him, slow, decisive, claiming the moment with the confidence of a woman who now owned every piece of her story. Chicago glowed behind them like a kingdom reclaimed. 6. The last twist. Downstairs, in the quiet lobby of Vaughn Tower, a single figure entered through the revolving doors. Special Agent Dana Holt. She stepped up to the security desk and flashed her badge. "I need the 132nd floor access logs," she said calmly. The security guard hesitated. "I thought the case was closed." Holt gave him a thin, knowing smile. "Case is close. Truth doesn't." She lifted a black evidence envelope. Inside was something found near the alley behind the tower. A small metal object. Circular.